Hey, good morning. Happy New Year. I hope you all had refreshing festive periods and managed to get a little bit of time off if you could take it. But we're back into the swing of things, back into ideas into action, back into the program. And just before, as a little reminder, please mute your microphone until you're asked to unmute. Use the Zoom chat to ask any questions or make comments. We have Jane, Safe, and Wei Kong here as amazing facilitators, but they'll also be getting involved in the Zoom chat as well. And if you fall off, I've sent everybody the link on WhatsApp, so you can just you can rejoin as you if you drop off the call. So what are we doing today? Well, today we're looking at my impact and financial plan. We're going to understand why defining and projecting and measuring your impact is so important. And we're actually going to do this. We're going to start looking at your impact, and we want to start defining your startup costs and measuring your impact against the costs to see how much you actually need to fundraise. Today's not going to be all conceptual and up in the air. Today is going to be a lot of working in your social business plan tool. So I would really recommend joining by laptop. We're going to be in breakout rooms. We're going to be working in the social business plan tool, and we're going to be writing down numbers, and we're actually going to be cracking on with your impact and your finances. So you can start seeing how much it's going to cost you in 2023 to be able to deliver the impact and the good community work that you want to do. So what have we got coming up? So first of all, we'll look at why impact and finance go together. What does that mean? And then also the basics of reporting and impact planning. And then we're going to get straight into it. So already we're going to start working in breakouts, and we're going to look at your impact plan. So we'll be loading up the social enterprise tool, which I sent on the WhatsApp. So if you need to find it, you can find it in WhatsApp. We'll start looking at financial planning for nonprofits, and we're going to start with a startup budget. We're going to take a little break, a little breather, then go into defining your startup budget for your MVP or your pilot before looking at how your cost and your startup budget and your impact go together. And then finally, we're going to start doing this yourself. And then I'm going to get you all to book a Spark booking. I know you've got hundreds of messages from me, but we want you to book a Spark booking, Spark Strategy Session 2 with Safe and myself. And we're going to start looking at a bonus workshop we have and a couple of added bonuses that are coming up in the coming weeks as well. So impact reporting and financial planning. Well, what is it? Well, effectively, this means costing your impact. So how much does it cost to do what you want to do? So today you're going to understand how much your organization is going to cost. It's going to cost your organization to deliver your impact. And your social business plan is going to help you, right, to be able to work this out. So we're going to be doing 3 different areas today. We're going to start with your impact plan. This is really looking at what it is that you want to do in 2023. And then we're going to look at your pilot or your MVP startup costs. Now, people are in different stages of their journey, but we're going to take one project, one pilot, or one MVP that we've been working on together, and we're going to take that and work out how much that costs. And then we're going to take the numbers of what you want to deliver and the numbers of how much it costs, and we're going to put them together to see how much it's going to cost your organization throughout 2023 and when you actually need to fundraise. We're going to do this today with 2 case study entrepreneurs. These are the brainchild of Fred and myself on Monday morning Tuesday morning last week. So they're not real, but they are brilliant case studies, which we're going to use, and they're going to help us illustrate for both a service and a product, because there are 2 types of social entrepreneurs. So first of all, we have a service offering. And the service offering is life skills training for young people at risk of crime, life coaching for young people, local internships for participating youth. And this is run by Alison. So we will be meeting Alison a lot today, and she'll be showing her journey and her experience of impact, costing, and also fundraising and looking at putting the 2 together. Worth noting that she does have a team of 2. She's got 2 volunteers and she's got 2 specialist training contractors. So there are already overheads in the organization that she has to pay. And second, we have a product-based social enterprise, which distributes insulated blankets to homeless people or people at risk of homelessness. And it employs people struggling with homelessness in making the blankets, and it's recycled blankets. And the founder, the social entrepreneur, is Ahmed, and he has a team of 1 coordinator and 1 tailor to make the blankets. So these are our 2 case study entrepreneurs. Remember them, because we're going to be coming back and we'll be working with them throughout the session today. But they're both going to help us in understanding those 3 points of projecting impact, costing a project, and impact and costing plan together. So what actually is showing your impact? What does that even mean? Well, basically showing your impact means showing the positive difference or the impact that your organization is having on the communities and the people that you're working with. It's reporting on the amount of people you're working with and you are supporting and helping. And why do you need to show impact? Well, showing impact is probably one of the most important parts of a non-profit or a community organization or a charity or a social enterprise. You simply have to show your impact. You need to show the difference that you're having to secure funding, first of all, right? And to continue the work that your organization is doing. People want to see what you're doing. But your impact also helps you to plan, and it helps you to strategize for your organization looking forward. But it's often a requirement from funders. So you quite often will need to show your impact as to how many people you're working with and how much work you're doing with their money. And you'll need to compile this into a report at the end of a funding cycle or at the end of a project cycle, okay? So you're going to need to report on things to show to funders. Now, who actually wants to see your impact? Because you don't just keep your impact for yourself, but you want to show your funders your impact. You want to show them how their money's being spent. You want to show them what impact their money has. People are giving you money because they know you're doing good work in the community, because they know that you're making a difference to people's lives. So how are you actually spending that money? And where is their money going towards impact? But your partner organizations will also want to see this because it helps them know how to collaborate. They will know where you're having the impact, where they're having the impact, and where you might be able to best collaborate to be able to have an even bigger impact. It's also so useful for your team and your organization. Your team will want to know, volunteers want to know how many people they're seeing, they're working with, right? They're helping, they're supporting, but also strategizing as an organization. Having real data, real numerical data helps you to be able to strategize going forward as an organization. And also beneficiaries, people using this might ask you for the impact that you're having, how many other people are you supporting, and you need to provide this data for them. Now, I just want to say one thing here, because it is a numbers game. And I know that with numbers sometimes takes away the human aspect. This is not what we're trying to do at all. Far from it, actually. Keep that human aspect of working with people. That's the most important bit of a non-profit, of a social enterprise, of a community organization, right? Is working with people. But the reality is that the numbers are needed. The data is needed to deliver and to measure, to record your impact, to be able to show people, to secure future funding, and to be able to continue the good work you're doing. So we're not putting people into numbers here, right? We're keeping people as that sort of human connection and working with people, but you do need to keep the numbers of how many people you're supporting and other numerical data to be able to show people the great work you're doing. Now let's look at the other side of today quickly as well, and that's the financial plan. Okay, and today specifically, and we had a financial plan workshop before Christmas and the New Year with Turn as a bonus workshop, which is much more in detail. But today we're looking at how you are going to be able to afford to make your impact, right? So the financial plan, for the purposes of today specifically, is showing that you actually can afford as an organization to make this impact. And if you can't afford it, where you need to fundraise or where you need to save some money to be able to afford what you want to do. So why do you actually need a financial plan? Well, you need to know the numbers. And I'm talking about being able to afford your impacts and cost your impact, but also for financial sustainability. Because if you don't know the numbers, you don't know the costs, don't have a financial plan, you're not going to be financially sustainable, because you're just, you're going to run out of money. You won't be able to deliver on projects. You need to know where you have money, where you can allocate it, and where you can put it. But also people need to see it. And the reality is it's going to be very difficult to secure funding of a larger amount, especially without a good financial plan that shows where you're spending the money as an organization and where that money is being used for impact. So who's going to look at your financial plan? Well, first of all, potential funders, because as I've said, they will want to know how their money is going to be spent. But also for you and your team, so that you know and you're organized as an organization that you have enough money to be able to deliver on the projects that you want to do, but also to plan for the longevity of your organization. And also your accountant. You've got to file your taxes, you've got to pay HMRC once a year, right? So you do need to actually, an accountant, if you have one, they're going to need to see where you spent your money. They're going to need to see a financial plan to understand exactly how much you owe to HMRC when you file your accounts. Now, business finances, social business finances can feel like this. It can feel scary. I'm not good with numbers, right? I know that feeling. It can be like, oh, there's loads of numbers on a page. I've had to do it quite a bit. I've had to learn it, and it doesn't have to be like this, because you can really simplify it to a point where it makes sense, and it is relatively straightforward once you have a good tool, which we've provided for you to be able to use. So finances can feel nice and tranquil and calm like this, but it can also give you peace of mind that your organization is financially sustainable. And I think that's the most important thing in the nonprofit sector a lot of the time, is people are worried about funding. The money is tight. It is hard to get all that funding. And having a good financial plan, knowing you have some reserve, knowing you have the money to deliver on your impact, can really make you feel at ease as an organization as well. So you can actually deliver on the impact you want to do. But also, anyone can learn finance and feel like this guy. Trust me. I learned it. It's really, anyone can. So what you really want to show is, put very simply, how much is it going to cost your organization to have the desired impact you want to have? And that's what we're going to be looking at today, right? We want to work out today, how much is going to cost your organization to have the impact that you want to have in 2023. That's the goal for today. And the reason why is because funders want to see, and you need to see, some clarity, right? So they want to see the good work you're doing, and they want to see how much it's going to cost, and have some clarity around that. So just a few things to remember. What do you actually report on? Okay. First of all, you kind of report on people. So who have you supported, and who are you working with, or who's volunteering, or who's working in your organization as well. Those are some good metrics to take down. But also the cost of running the service or product. So how much does it actually cost to deliver this, right? To the person, to the workshop, to the event, to the training program, whatever it is, right? Or if you're selling water bottles, to the water bottle. How much does it actually cost to deliver your product or service? And the deliverables. So how much is your organization doing or producing to have the impact you want to have? So you might have an idea of what you want to do, but how much are you actually doing? And with impact reporting, it's worth saying that you want to have a desired impact, you agree on a desired impact, but you want to take real data as well. And you use that real data of the work that you've done so that you can shape future data. So maybe you say you want to work with 20 people in April, and then April comes by and you only work with 10 people. Then you say you've only worked with 10 people. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be realistic when you're projecting impact. And some ideas of data and good data to capture for impact reporting. So how many people are you supporting as an organization? How many volunteers do you have? How many staff do you have? How much does it cost you as an organization? We'll look at that later. Where are people supported from? how much is your organization producing, delivering to support people? What's the gender proportion of people supported? So you can look at these metrics as well, and they can also help you to apply for specific grants. So, you know, if you're working 100% women, for instance, there might be grants that only fund projects that work with women. Okay, so those are just some sort of data to capture for reporting as well as you're going forward. So we'll come back. Remember that today we're looking at projecting, we're looking at forecasting these things, but you want to keep the real data. And we're going to first look at your impact plan. Okay, so what is the impact you're going to have in 2023? We want to look at your targets. We want to look at your major milestones. This includes things like registration or branding and setup. But really what's crucial is looking at the numbers of people that you want to be supporting and working with in the year ahead, and think realistically what you can achieve. Okay, it's not about trying to be like the most amazing organization straight away. Things take time. You're already great organizations, whether you work with 10 people or 100 people, it doesn't matter. It's what you're capable of right now. The most important thing is that you're making that difference and you're forecasting the difference that you think you can have through your organization. And so when I say forecast, it's basically a very fancy word, right, for planning. Okay, it's planning the difference that you want to have. It's planning the impact, but in numerical data and looking at that. Doesn't need to be 100% correct. But what you do need to do is capture the real data to forecast in the future, but to make that 100% correct as you go forward in your journey, and also to show the real costs of the organization as you've gone through it and done it, which will help you with your financial plan. So we're going to break out very, very soon. And we're going to first go to section 6 of the business plan. So I don't know, Saif, if you could post in the chat the link to the business plan would be amazing so that everybody's got it. But load this up now. Load it up now because we're going to be working on it in breakout groups. Where do we want to be in 5 years? So this section 6, right? What we're going to be doing is we're going to be filling out our 5-year goal. And the reason why we start filling out on the 5 years is because it helps us to filter down. So we'll start with where you want to be in 5, and then the most important thing is we want to look at year 1. So in 1 year from now, where's your organization going to be? So how many people will you be supporting? What's your impact going to be? And then we want to break it down even further into quarter 1, which is January to March, quarter 2, April to June, quarter 3, July to September, and quarter 4, October to December. What are the milestones? When do you want to support people? When do you want to also have registered by? What are your targets? So you can see that also we've been working in the roadmap tool in our strategy sessions. That's where that roadmap tool comes in very nicely to looking at milestones and targets. There is methods in our tools and in our workshops, and you can now see the crossover as to why we're working in those tools. But really start looking at the numbers. And I think if there's one takeaway is working out how many people you're going to be supporting, okay? Because that's really important for looking at how much that's going to cost you as an organization. But let's look at some examples. Let's look at Alison's impact plan for her service. Okay, so if we remember, Alison wants to deliver training sessions to young people at risk of crime. And they've just started out. So in quarter 1, right, they already want to register complete branding and digital setup, finalize training program and outreach to participant schools. They're not even working with people yet, but they've still got their 5-year goal that they want to support 3,500 at-risk young people and will be operating in London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Bristol. That's their 5-year goal. But in 1 year, in January 2024, they want to have piloted their training service as well as delivered 10 training sessions to 100 people, 100 at-risk young people in London. Okay, so they break that down. They know they've got to register. They're not delivering anything yet. But they're thinking, okay, young people, maybe people are in college, and you know, maybe people are at school. If we're thinking 16 to 18, then quarter 3 is when they're looking to deliver because it's the school holidays, right? That's when they're going to be busiest. But they want to start it in quarter 2 and deliver 1 training session for 10 at-risk young people in June. They need to onboard participant schools to help them and recruit volunteers and training coordinators. They want to deliver, as I said, in the school holidays. That's when they're doing the bulk of the work this year. But then they also want to deliver 2 training sessions during the October half term. And then they want to gather and implement feedback and bring on board more schools for next year so they can keep growing. So you can see the very clear impact they want to have, not only on the people they're supporting, but also on the organization. And they're thinking, okay, we're working with young people. They might be in college, they might be in school. Then July and August are the best times to probably run our workshops when people are maybe more at risk because they're not at school or at college. All right, so we can see Alison's plan for her service social enterprise. And let's look at Ahmed's plan for his impact, right? His impact plan for his product social enterprise. So he's got the big goal where he wants to be in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Bristol, and Newcastle. He wants to deliver at least 5,000 blankets to 5,000 homeless people across the UK. Those are some pretty big numbers. But what does he want to do in the next year? Well, in 1 year from now, he wants to have distributed 300 blankets to 300 homeless people during our Winter Warm campaign in London. So that's the project, the Winter Warm campaign. So he's going to later be costing for the Winter Warm campaign, and he wants that to be in London. So what's he got to do to get there, and what's the impact? Really looking at the impact. So the first one is source a producer, establish social media and referral partners in the homeless sector, right? So he needs to do some research and look for things as well. And then in the second quarter, he wants to recruit the tailor and produce the 300 winter blankets and finalize referral partners for outreach. Now, if we remember, he actually hires someone who's a tailor who is from or at risk of homelessness or has been homeless or is homeless. So he's actually already delivering on impact in quarter 2. Even though he's not getting the blankets out, he's still delivering a little bit because he's giving someone a job, and that's part of his impact planning. That's part of his social enterprise. Hire 1 part-time coordinator in quarter 3 and deliver 50 blankets as an outreach pilot. Starting to plan ahead. But why is he not delivering the blankets beforehand? Any ideas why he's waiting until quarter 4 to deliver his impact? Anybody? Any ideas? Why is he delivering them 250 blankets in quarter 4? Someone take yourself off mute.
Because it's the season.
Exactly. Thank you, Alex. Because it's winter. So we might be January now, but you know, it is better. He'll have more impact. He'll be able to deliver more blankets to more people who need them in the colder season, right? That's when the blankets are really, really needed and really essential. So he's delivering in October, November, and December 250 blankets for his campaign. That's when the funders are really going to see the impact. But he's still planning ahead for the year ahead, okay? So we're going to go out and look at impact forecasting. So let's start big. Where do you want to be as an organization? What are the numbers in 5 years' time? But where do you want to be in 1 year time? How are you going to get there over the next 12 months as well? All right, and we're going to be working in section 6 of the impact plan. If someone could just, I can post that in the chat, or Safe or Wacom, if you could post the link to the social business plan tool in the chat so everyone's got it. That would be awesome. Worth saying that for the purposes of today, let's really try and nail how many people you want to be working with over the next year and which months you want to be doing that, because it's going to make a huge difference later on in the workshop. Okay. So now we've looked at the impact plan, and we've looked at the difference that you want to start making over the year, right? And also your strategic targets, but really the impact in terms of the numbers of people you want to support. We want to start looking at your pilot or your MVP or startup costs. So it depends really on where you are as the organization. It depends really as to how much you have already done or how much you are doing. But if you're at that early sort of pilot or MVP stage, for the purpose of this exercise, let's use that costing that project and cost that project in terms of the impact that you want to have in the year ahead, right? So let's use the next year, and we're going to look at all the potential costs that are associated with running a pilot, running an MVP, or running a project, so that we can look at the impact and how much it costs. So really, it's how much does it cost you to deliver as an organization, to deliver this impact? And how do we actually cost? Well, the cost of impact means the cost to deliver it. So we need to look at the project and we need to look at the organization, right? We need to first work out how much does it cost to run a project, but we also need to look at how much does it cost to run an organization. And the reason why is because a project does not exist in a vacuum, right? It doesn't exist by itself. The organization is still there. The organization is still going. The organization might have many different projects it's delivering, okay? Right, let's take Turn for an example. Ideas into Action is one project. It's one part of Turn, right? Results CIC is the same. Results CIC have many different projects. Ideas into Action is one of them, okay? So there's still the organizational costs which you need to account for. So don't forget the organization, because that's what runs the projects. That's what delivers the projects, okay? It has the overheads, it's the day-to-day. So when we're costing, we look at the single project, we look at the organization, and we come up with the cost of your impact when we add these together, right? We understand how much it's actually going to cost to deliver a project, but also whilst your organization is running at the same time, to show and to be able to fundraise for that impact, right? The whole point of this costing exercise is to know how much you need to fundraise or how much you need to have to deliver on your impact. So this is a very, complicated topic, I think, when we talk about it up here in conceptual terms. So let's look at it practically. Let's look at it with our case studies as to how they cost, right? But when you're doing it, you're going to be working in the startup budget template, right? And I want to, just before we look at our case studies, explain a few things and explain a few what things mean when I'm talking about costing and organizational costs and stuff. So we're looking at the costs associated from a startup budget template. Now here it says expenditure item from your financial plan. If you were in the workshop before, New Year with Turn, not part of the Ideas into Action program, you would have been costing for an MVP, you would have been costing for a pilot project, okay? So you can take from there directly. If you weren't, let's start fresh today. So let's look at first your organizational costs, right? Let's look at how much does it cost to run your organization. Maybe it's a laptop, maybe it's a phone you have to buy, maybe it's a founder's salary. And this is really important because don't forget to pay yourself a salary. Now, maybe you don't pay yourself a salary and you pay yourself per project. That's fine as well. But do remember, if you pay yourself a salary as an organization, right? If you pay yourself to do that, and it's really important, and don't forget that. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people see voluntary organizations, community organizations, and they think, oh yeah, they're delivering on good. But this is also your work. This is also your job. Okay. You also need to make a living, so please don't forget to pay yourself. Don't cut the budget and cut your salary first. Okay. You need to pay yourself. You need to give yourself the adequate financial rewards as a salary for the work that you're doing. But then we've also got these project costs, okay? So we're going to work out our organizational cost per impact, and we're going to work out our project cost per impact. So what's the actual cost of the project? How much does it cost to deliver that? But we need to combine the two of these to know the real costs. Because they don't exist in a vacuum, okay? Because your organization's still running in the background when the project's delivered or being delivered, you need to see how much it actually costs when you combine the two of these. Now, there's one thing to mention, okay? So we look at the organization, what are the core costs? We look at the project, what are the core project costs? But there's also something called overheads. Now, we've estimated these at 20%, and 20% is accounted for all the other costs that might not be project related or startup organizational related, but are to do with the wider day-to-day running of the organization. It's separate to the founder's salary, but it's still essential to the day-to-day running of the organization. Maybe you have to get, a taxi from A to B, or you need to buy some lunch for a partner, right? Whatever it is, there's some overheads that have day-to-day running of an organization, and we account about 20% of those into your financial plan. So you're covering yourself so that you have those overheads covered to make sure that you have enough money to run your organization. Now, I've added this table as well, so you can work out exactly, and today we're going to be working out exactly how much, right, it's going to cost you to deliver your project per impact. So you work out your project cost and you divide this by the number of beneficiaries served, the number of people you've supported. Then you'll know how much it costs to deliver your project. But also your organizational costs. So when you're running your organization, divided by the numbers of beneficiaries served. And we're going to put these together to see how much the total cost of impact is. This is in your business plan as well. But again, like I said, very hard to think about without numbers and seeing it properly. So let's meet Alison again, sorry. Now, Alison wants to deliver 10 workshops in 2023 to 100 young people. Okay, this is her pilot project, but her organization's already in full swing, right? So we saw that she is also running and starting up her organization. So let's look at her startup budget. So she's worked out the cost of 10 workshops for 10 beneficiaries, which is 100 total, is £200 per workshop. Okay, so she's costed her 2,000. Now remember, she's got to pay salaries for her 2 workshop facilitators. Okay, so that's probably where a lot of those costs are going. She's got to rent the space for service delivery 10 times, that's £1,000. Cost of transportation, she's offering that to beneficiaries. Okay, so she's got £500 there. Volunteer expenses for the workshop, she's offering £20 per volunteer, £10 per volunteer, 20 for 2, it's £200. And the production, marketing materials for the workshops, £20. And she's giving food for everybody as well, which is £25 per workshop. So she's got £250. Now that totals, okay, her project cost of £4,150, okay, for the project alone. But we can see here she's got no salary, she's got no overheads for the organization. So here you can see that that's costing her £41.50 per user trained. So everybody that goes through a program for this project is costing £41.50. Or she can break it down that into 10 workshops. One workshop will cost £415 to deliver. Okay, so those are the maths. She works out the cost and then she divides it by her impact, right? Again, these are plans. But as I said, she's also got to pay herself a salary because remember, she wanted to register in January, in Q1. She wanted to find outreach schools in Q2 and wasn't delivering on the projects until Q3, right? So although the project costs are there, she needs to find some money before to actually do the work she's doing because she's already working. She's already working. She's not delivering training, but she's already working, okay? She's working towards delivering the impact. And she's got her overheads, which is 20% of above, which gives her organizational costs of £3,730, the overheads and her salary. So actually, there's also the cost of her organization to run this project, which is £37.30 per user trained or £370 per workshop. So you actually already see that it's much more than she thought it was going to be. It's much more than just the project delivery, which is fine, but you need to know this in order to fundraise adequately so you don't come up short. So her total budget is not actually £4,150, but it's £7,880, okay? And so her total cost, the real cost per impact, is adding together those two organizational project costs. So you get 7,880, dividing that by 100 users is £78.80 per user trained, or £788 per workshop. Okay, so that's her startup budget. This is an estimate. This is what she's going to correct with real numbers in real time as she goes forward so that you can cost better in the future. But this is an estimate to be able to give her targets to fundraise. And this is really important for when we start looking at projecting impact. right? Because we can see how much it actually costs. And I'll show you that in the next session after the break and after the breakout. So that's Alison, that's for a service. So we can see, be realistic with it, but you can see the service one. And now let's look at the product, okay? So for Ahmed, for his startup budget, he's got the producer salaries. He's going to find somebody to make the blankets. So that's £3,000. He's also got the delivery salaries for the distributor, which he's worked out as £5 per unit. So that's £1,500 because he wants to distribute all of those. He's got to buy the material as well, right? So yes, it's £3,000 to make it, but he's got to buy the material, which is £1,500. So the total is £6,000. That's what it costs just to make 300 blankets and to deliver them, okay? To make and deliver. So the total is £20 per blanket delivered, not just manufactured. Manufactured, you would take around this £5 per unit. So you take away this £1,500, right? But £5 per unit. So to manufacture it would cost £15, okay? But then you add the extra £5 on to make it 20, okay? When he's actually delivered it, because that's the distributor. Now he's given himself a salary because he knows that the impact is not until the back end of the year, but he's got loads of work to do before that. So he has a salary, right, of £3,000. He needs a computer as well because he hasn't got a computer. He needs the phone and email subscriptions for the team to work on things. So that's a cost per month, which is ongoing. He's got a marketing budget as well to reach out, and he's got his overheads for the day-to-day, okay? So his organizational costs are £5,976, okay? So that's £19 per blanket delivered, roughly, give or take. I haven't gone to the exact penny. But it's pretty much £19 per blanket. So you can see the organization to run is going to cost him £6,000, but the project cost is going to cost him £6,000. He's only delivering on the project, really, in the last 3 months of the year, because he's making them all for the rest of the year. But the total costs are up at £11,976 or £39 per blanket delivered. If you break it down like this, you can also see, right, you can show people where their financials are going and the impact that they're having to the sort of the smallest detail. And some funders will want to see that. Some funders might also only fund specific projects, but you can include in there your organizational costs to be able to make sure you cover that. So you might deliver, maybe Ahmed also has a food kitchen once a week, but a funder doesn't want to fund that. They say, no, we're only funding the blankets. The salary might not change for Ahmed with the food kitchen, right? But at least with the funding, he can still cover himself a salary and cover his organization, okay? Because you're telling people, this is how much it costs me to deliver it. And it's true. It's not just this number. You're not lying or anything by saying £12,000. That is how much it costs. Because, as I've said, a project doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It's not alone. A project is delivered by an organization, delivered by a team or an individual, okay? So those are the costing. And an essential thing to do, right, is market research. And the reason why is because this will help you to cut back the price, right? But also it will help you to work out how much other people in the sector are costing. Because if you are £20 ahead of other people, if you're £80 per workshop and they're 60, you're going to need to justify to funders why. Because a lot of the time, funders will fund many different projects. The sector's not that big. It's pretty small, the non-profit sector. I mean, it's big, but the funders and the big players and the funders, they know a lot of the organizations doing things. So you need to justify that. Or, right, and you need to make sure that your cost is reasonable compared to competition. What's the sector standard? Okay, you need to have a good argument. Or you can be an absolute wizard and work out where you can save money, right? Things are expensive. Where can you save money? Let me give you a good example. Space. Maybe it costs £1,000 to deliver a workshop in a space. So instead you go to a partner organization that does similar to work to you and you say, could I have the space for an hour? Because I want to deliver a workshop to young people at risk of crime in the school holidays. If it's somebody that's working with young people, they have the space, it's free, they might say yes, they might offer it for you for a lower price.
Okay, that's one example, right? Maybe with the blankets, maybe the materials you've sourced are £3,000. Go and do the research and see if you can find cheaper materials, and maybe AFMA can find materials that are 1,500 to fit within its budget. The point is, you need to look at this and you need to work it out, but you need to understand the market or the sector, okay, in non-profit third sector speak, the sector, you need to understand the sector, do the market research there to be able to actually really get the correct pricing for your service or your product and for your social enterprise. We're looking at the startup budget activity that is in your social business plan as well. So what do you actually need to run a first pilot or a version or an MVP of your project over the next year? What's the cost, right? So what's that going to cost? So think about the top lines and think about the costing and the project cost, but also don't forget your organizational costs, okay? And then we also want to look at the total. So we want to put down in the top lines here, we want to be looking at what is the expenditure. We want to be looking at your organizational costs, your pilot costs, how much that costs per impact, and then what's your total cost per impact. Now, in the startup budget, you'll see how to work that out. You work out the total amounts and then you divide them by the amount of beneficiaries or the amount of people that you want to have served. Or you divide them by the amount of products you've sold or products you've delivered.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it made sense. I hope that I'm sure it did. I'm sure you're making sense of it now. Yeah, it's, it might start coming together now, like, oh, it's actually going to cost me quite a bit now to deliver what I want to do. Remy and I had a really good session, and I want it just to know that, like, it's not about having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It's about being realistic as to the impact you're having, but also how much it's going to cost, and looking at that. And these numbers will help you to be like, okay, I might need to reevaluate some things, and that's fine. And we're going to look now specifically at the impact and financial plan forecasting. So we want to look at how these come together. So we have the number of people you want to support. We have the costing that's going to be. And now we want to look at how they come together and how much is it actually going to cost you, and when, crucially, when is it going to cost you the money to be able to deliver, and how much you need to fundraise. So this is all part of a bigger picture, and as another part of Ideas into Action. And for those of you who have been having loads of Spark sessions, you would have known that before the new year, we were looking a lot at registration, branding, digital setup, social media and things to get ready for this stage of the program, which is a lot more geared around getting the money to deliver what you want to do. Okay, so drop down a little. Getting the money to deliver what you want to do. Okay, so we want you to get the funding. We want you to be able to deliver on what you want to do, and we want to support you with this. So you'll notice now that we're moving into this kind of forecasting and actually finding the money so that you can do it, okay? So that you can deliver what you want to deliver. So there's a little bit of a segue into the Ideas into Action program, but let's come back to the impact of financial planning. So we've got now, we're going to talk to Alison again. Now, Alison has her, this is section 7 in your business plan as well. And this is a very simplified sort of what they would call in the for-profit sector a cash flow forecast. This is looking at our impact and financial plan. Okay, so it's our impact and financial forecast for the year. So we can look at Alison's service. We know that she wants to deliver one session in June, which is 10 people trained. We know that in July, she's got 3 trainings, and then she split 4 because this is the school holidays, and she's got 2 in the October half term. So she's worked out the training delivered and the people trained, okay? So in yours, it will say beneficiaries served and new beneficiaries onboarded. So you can add rows, you can put your impact however you like, it's up to you. Alison's decided to do training delivered and people trained. But then we want to see the income into the organization, the expenditure, and the net profit and loss. So your bank is always staying in the green, okay? So Alison knows that to deliver one session, it costs her £788. She knows that because she's done her costing. It costs her £788 organizationally and project costs. So she knows to deliver 3 sessions is going to be 2,364 because it's just timesing 3 by 788. And 4, there's no cost in September. She knows it's going to cost her in October, which means that totally there's this 500 down here because Alison wants to get an accountant to help file her accounts at the end, okay? So she knows that her costs for 2023 for this year are going to be £8,420 to deliver her workshops and to also have an accountant to pay herself a salary, to have all of those costs covered. All of those costs are covered. This isn't just a project cost. This is a project and an organization, okay? That's how much it's going to cost her to deliver. So she knows she's going to need some money. And she knows to deliver this first bit and to be set up for July, she might need to do some crowdfunding maybe or grant fundraising in May. So she brings in £3,000 to the organization. That gives her a nice bank balance of plus £3,000. But then she has enough money to deliver this, right? And maybe she takes out the organizational costs from here and applies it to May when the money comes in and she can pay for things in the organization and she can pay for herself. But then she would cut the cost here where it's just the training delivered, okay? But she can play around with the numbers a little bit because she's brought in this. But suddenly she thinks, oh, actually, in July, it's going to cost me £2,364 to deliver these, but I've only got £2,212 in my bank account. So I'm going to need to fundraise a little bit. I also know I've got August coming up, and that's a big month. So I need to really fundraise to have enough money. So she fundraised to get £3,500 in to bring her back her account up to £5,000, £5,500, but £5,712 to be able to deliver these workshops. And she's still got this money left over. So she can still deliver these workshops in August. So she doesn't need to worry about delivering, bringing in more money because the school holidays start at the end of July. So she's going to be running 3 workshops towards the end of July. That's a lot. So she doesn't want to be thinking about bringing in money in August when she's doing probably a workshop every 7 days. So she really wants to focus on the workshops. So she raises a little bit more in July to be able to deliver both. But then she's looking and she's thinking, oh, I've got £156 in my bank account. Now I put this in red because that's not negative, but it's getting pretty close and she can't really do much. So September's a free month. So she spends a little bit of time fundraising again, bringing in the money or planning to bring in the money so she can go back up, deliver again in October, 2 sessions, have enough money in the bank account to not worry about November and focus on her evaluation and reporting, but still have £500 there so that she's left with £1,000 at the end of the year. So if she was delivering a session or asked to deliver a session in January for free, she could actually still afford it, right? If somebody approached her and said, your work was so good, she could still afford it. So she's got a little bit left over. So her total fundraised is £9,500, but she spent £8,420 and she's got £1,080 left, okay? So this is how she's planning. Now, this is a plan. This is not the exact amount, but we want it to be realistic because you want to think as well about how much can you fundraise. If your numbers up here are getting to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds to run a pilot, you might need to reevaluate perhaps the amount of people you're helping or the costs, okay? How much do you think you can realistic fundraise? Now, this leads into our next workshop, which I'll tell you about at the end of the session, okay? But we're going to be looking at fundraising more and more in the program, okay? And we're going to be looking at blended fundraising, right? But we want to start with this planning to start thinking and splitting up the year into blocks as to when it's going to be quite expensive for your organization to deliver and when you can start fundraising. So that's the service. Now let's look at the product. Let's look at Ahmed's product. So we know in May, he's hired someone in April, and May he's going to get some samples. And then in June, he's got a big order of 140, and July's got a big order. That's a lot of money coming out because he's got to get all of these made. That's the expensive bit. If we remember, it's £15 for Ahmed to deliver. Sorry, it's £15 for him to actually make them and £5 for him to deliver them. So he knows it's going to cost a lot of money here to make them. So he's up front fundraising £7,500 to cover himself in June and July, right? Because he knows it's going to cost a lot. His major impact is not coming until October, November, December. But in May, he already wants to bring in some money so that he can prepare himself. So he's got quite a bit in the bank. He's looking all right. But then all of these go out and nothing's coming in. So suddenly he's down to £1,294 after he spent £6,000, right, on delivering on the on getting the blankets made. Okay, so all the blankets are made, right? So he's got the blankets made, not £6,000, sorry, a bit less because it's £15 per blanket, not the delivery. Now he's paying himself a salary. He's getting ready. Referral outreach partners, needs to find a coordinator and things. So he's still paying himself. But then we start looking at the delivery costs associated, right, with delivering the blankets and running the organization at the same time. So he's not producing at the moment, but he is delivering down here. So he knows the delivery costs, which is the organizational costs, and the £5, which was the delivery cost. If we go back to the startup budget that he worked out, right? That's what he's worked out as his expenditure now in these months. So he knows he's got to bring in some more money in August when it's a bit of a quiet month. There's no delivery, there's no, he's not making anything, there's no production side of things, but there's also no outreach at the moment. So that brings him right back up, but it also means he's safe to deliver his campaign and get that out there. So he can go through with no money coming in, but the expenditure going out the whole time in order to be delivering on his impact of 300 blankets delivered. So his expenditure might be pretty big at £12,381, but he's raised a lot of money. He's raised 15,500, which allows him to have a positive balance of £3,119, which if somebody said, we need some stuff in January, he has enough money to be like, oh, I can make some more blankets here and I could deliver them in January as well, right? So you can see that this is a plan. It's not exact, but you need to keep the exact figures so that you can make it exact in the future. But it's about combining the impact that you want to have with the costing of that impact to see the year ahead and think, where am I going to be spending a lot of money? Because when you're delivering impact, you are probably going to be spending quite a lot of money. Okay, so it's looking at where am I spending the money? When do I need to fundraise? Because you want to fundraise ahead of time to protect yourself and to be able to deliver on the organization. Because if you're delivering in June and you need £5,000, you don't want to be fundraising in June. You want to be focusing on delivering. So you can plan ahead for that delivery. All right. So we're going to go out and do that ourselves now. So let's fill in the year when you want to deliver. All right. We'd go back to the impact plan and look at when you're delivering throughout the year, and let's fill it in. How much is that going to cost you per month? Right. So we have the total cost of the organization with the impact. This is where it blends now. And we times the amount of impact by the cost per impact to tell you how much it's going to cost you to deliver that in that month, right? So let's start looking at that and then work out, if we have time, how much you need to fundraise in the months leading up to that, right? So if your outgoings are £3,000, do you want to set yourself a fundraising target of 3,500 the month before, so you have a little bit extra as well, right? So we want to start looking holistically at the year in terms of your impact you want to have, your cost of it, and your fundraising, right? And this will lead into future sessions around fundraising. 7.2 in the financial plan. If you haven't got this far, continue with costing, right? Or continue with impact, right? Continue wherever you are. But if you have, let's at least start getting these in here. Change the new beneficiaries onboarded, beneficiary served to whatever you like, however you want to show that. Last bit, and we will actually be finishing as well on time, which is always remarkable considering how much we covered today. But there's just a few little bits. I hope that was good. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was useful. And as I've said quite a few times in the session, we are going to be focusing a lot on access to finance and getting that money and trying to help you get that money, which is where today started. But to do that, we need to know as well what you're focusing on. So some of you may have already booked a 1-hour strategy spark session with myself or with Safe. We need you to book this. They run from tomorrow until the 27th of January. These are a core part of the program. There were 3 in the program. We had 1 at the beginning, 1 now, and 1 in March, leading up towards crowdfunding and graduation. Okay, so please book them. Scan this QR code right now. There's no excuses. We're all in the room. Everyone can do it. I know who's here. I've sent you all WhatsApps as well. Please scan this QR code and book a session with myself or with Safe, or click the link that Safe's about to put in the chat, which is bit.ly/Spark Strategy 2. These are separate to the normal Spark sessions, and you can book normal Spark sessions as usual throughout from now until March, April. You can book them as usual. These are the strategy ones, which are really important to be able to tell us what you want to achieve by the end of the program. Tell us where you're focusing so that we can tailor our support for you. Yeah, we don't know what you want to be focusing on and what you want to be doing and where you're at in the journey right now unless you tell us. So please book. I want to have loads of emails coming in, and you know, you can tell us we want to finish costing in the next couple of months, and then we can be like, great, let's book a Spark session to do costing. Okay, so please book these seriously, really important. They are also a core component of the program. Safe and I am not here to tell you, oh, you should be further along or you've gone too quickly. We're here to meet you where you're at and use our experience, skills, knowledge, resources to help you. And we really want to meet you guys. So please book. Okay, enough on us and Spark. I want to let you guys know about a bonus workshop that we have. This is part of Turn, not Ideas into Action. It's part of Turn. It's a bonus workshop, and it's next Wednesday, the 18th of January, 2023. This is all about my business story. So we've got some professional copywriters who have very kindly said they'd come and help you to work on your business story, okay? So people are gonna come and support you to write why it was born, what makes it different. Now it says my business story because it's a Turn workshop, but you guys can use this for your social business story and what came out of it. If you're in London, this is in person next Wednesday at our office. If you're not in London, which a lot of you aren't, that's absolutely fine because we are hybridizationing. I don't think that's a word, but hybridizing. I don't even know if that's a word. Anyway, it's going to be run in a hybrid format. I'm going to be facilitating some of the breakout rooms online, so you'll see me, and you might also have an advisor, or you'll definitely be working with me. So if you are planning to attend, I will send a message today, but I need to know by the end of today if you're coming to that workshop for the online setup. It's optional. It's really good. So I'd really recommend attending, but it's entirely optional. It's part of Turn, but let me know by the end of the day. I'm going to post in WhatsApp. If you could just say yes, that's all you need to say is yes. And I will send you an invitation inviting you to this. But if you're in London, please come. It's in person. Let me know. If you're not in London,
it's fine. We still will have you online, join online, and it'll be hybrid, and you can attend and get the most from it as well. Now, workshop 6 leads on from this, and this is only one workshop because we want to put the whole group together, because I don't think everybody's always met, but also we're going to be doing some really interesting stuff around a financial readiness survey, and this will look at where you're at in your journey, and it will help you to determine what finance is right for you and where you should focus your fundraising energy. So this will help you with looking at fundraising and where you should focus your energies. And that is Tuesday, the 31st of January from 9:30 to 12 p.m. This is part of the Ideas into Action program, but it's only on a Tuesday. There's not a Thursday session, just to let you know with that. And finally, please help us learn, help us grow. Tell me what I did well, tell me what I did badly. Tell us what we're doing well, tell us what we're doing badly. Please, could you scan this QR code? It's really important. I really need feedback. I'm going to post a link in WhatsApp tomorrow alongside the recording as well. Please, please, please take 5 minutes just to tell us where we can do even better, if we're doing well already. Terribly. As you like, but please, please, please fill out this so that we know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And that's it. We finished at 12:01. I've taken an extra 1 minute of your time. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for staying. Thank you for being so attentive. And I thought that was a great session. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And you know where to find us on WhatsApp. You know where to find us on Spark Bookings. Look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Happy New Year. Have a great day. Have a lovely lunch.